Once again, Christian greetings to all our valued listeners and viewers throughout the whole world. This is our special episode number 7. Just an hour exposition of the prophetic studies as the last final warning message just prior to the close of provision. And let us continue with our subject concerning the 12 figurative months. Remember that according to tract number 5, on page 75, it says, during the 5 figurative months, God has deferred His vengeance to grace. Tract number 5, page 75. So it says, during the 5 figurative months, God has deferred His vengeance to grace. And that is one of the reason why we could say that the 5 figurative months cannot be construed in its perfect fulfillment, that it commenced from April 16, 31 AD, the literal crucifixion of Jesus Christ, up to this present time. If that is the entire period of the 5 figurative months, then how could it be that it says God has deferred His vengeance to grace? That statement plainly indicating that within the 5 figurative months, there was no vengeance. Because God has deferred His vengeance to grace. Or it can also be understood, supposed to be, that would already be the fulfillment of God's vengeance, but God still deferred it to grace. Now it is closely connected to our subject, the irrevocable decision. For in the vision of the prophet, recorded in volume 2, 690 and 691, at that time Jesus Christ will clothe Himself with the garments of vengeance. He will take off His priestly attire and then clothe Himself with the garments of vengeance. So, closely related to the subject, the 5 figurative months. And that day of vengeance is the repetition of that event recorded in Luke 21, verse 20 to verse 24. Now let me read to you. It says, and when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out. And let not them that are in the countries enter therein too. For this be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. So it says, for this be the days of vengeance. So if the 5 figurative months commence on April 1631 AD, then onwards, then how could it be that there was days of vengeance within the period of the 5 figurative months? Why? While the divine declaration, it says, during the 5 figurative months, vengeance is deferred to grace. So it could not be the particular object in view. This is only the groundwork. But being the groundwork, these occurrences will be repeated again in the perfect fulfillment of the prophecy. Now, let me read to you Bible commentary. Here in Bible commentary, 5 BC, 11:2-3. Sins to be repeated. Luke 21 verse 20. Sins to be repeated. What is Luke 21 verse 20? And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. So I would like to read 5 BC 11:2-3. It says, sins to be repeated. After speaking of the end of the world, Jesus comes back to Jerusalem. The city then sitting in pride and arrogance and saying, I sit a queen, and shall see no sorrow. As his prophetic eye rested upon Jerusalem, he sees that as she was given up to destruction, the world will be given up to its doom. The sins that transpired at the destruction of Jerusalem will be repeated at the great and terrible day of the Lord, but in a more fearful manner. So that event will be repeated again. When? In the great and dreadful day of the Lord, and even in a more fearful manner. And the clear words of Jesus Christ is very plain. It says, for this be the days of vengeance. Now, let us go back again to our subject. The 12 figurative months. As we stated before, the particular object in view of the 5 figurative months is the ingathering of the first fruits, the 144,000. Now, I would like to read again. Tract number 5, page 74. It says, 5, from the crucifixion to the ingathering of the first fruits, the 144,000. Revelation 14, verse 4. Or in other words, the shepherd's rod made it so plain that we will count 5 figurative months from the crucifixion to the commencement of the ingathering of the first fruits, the 144,000. And we already explained to you that the crucifixion mentioned there could not be the literal, because trumpet study is a symbolical prophecy. And it is closely connected to Revelation 11 verse 8. That Jesus Christ is crucified in spiritual Egypt and spiritual Sodom. Revelation 11 verse 8. Now what is spiritual Egypt and spiritual Sodom? Saying that our Lord was crucified there. Revelation 11 verse 8. Now in 2TG, in 2TG number 15, pages 11 and 12, it says, "Now we may ask, who is the beast of the bottomless pit? If the star that came from heaven and opened the pit is Christ, and if the locusts that came out of the pit are the Christians, then there is no way of escaping the conclusion that the beast which came out of the bottomless pit is symbolical of Christendom. Thus it is that the Lord was crucified there." Where is the Lord had been crucified? Spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. But the shepherd's rod made it so plain that the spiritual Sodom and Egypt, that is symbolical of Christendom. Now let's read 2SR 157. 2SR page 157. The woman sitting on the heads. Say the angel, the 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Revelation 17 verse 9. It has been previously explained that the heads represent the present day apostate Christendom. They are called mountains, denomination 7 in number, meaning all. As the prostitute sits on all 7, the symbol with unmistakable evidence reveals that so-called Christendom will submit itself to be governed by one head, of which the woman is a symbol. Who are they, the Christendom? The 7 heads. Then, in this study, we can easily discern that the 7 heads on the leopard-like beast is the spiritual Egypt. But the 7 heads on the scarlet-colored beast is the spiritual Sodom. Both of them are called Christendom, where our Lord was crucified there. 2TG 15, page 11 and 12. Now, brothers and sisters, we know that Sodom and Egypt has a different locations. And the statement says, track number 5, page 74, from the crucifixion to the commencement of the ingathering of the 144,000. Now, let us connect our study on another angle of the prophecy. Still, the main subject is the ingathering of the 144,000. That the inviolable rule of interpretation, according to answerer number 3, page 41, we need to harmonize all related inspired statements. Now let us connect our subject to the 40 days. Numerical illustration of ingathering. Track number 3, 1934 edition, page 64. Numerical illustration of ingathering. It says, it was during the 40 days of Christ's personal presence with His disciples, from His resurrection to His ascension, that the first fruits, the 120, were gathered in. And we already read that the 120, which is the first fruits, is the type. And the 144,000, which is also the first fruits, is the antitype. Reading track number 3, 1934 edition, page 75, it says, the comparisons of the two Pentecosts are perfect. The first fruits only of both being numbered, 120 in the one, and the 144,000 in the other. So the 120 is called the first fruits, but it is the type. The 144,000, it is called the first fruits, but it is the antitype. So the statement in track number 3, 1934 edition, page 66, saying, moreover, track number 3, 1934 edition, page 66, it says, moreover, His personal care in gathering His people in those 40 days, which we see to be a type of His supervision of the ingathering of the fruits in every generation, should therefore reveal that He is the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world, and the Good Shepherd in all ages. So the 40 days serve as a type of the ingathering of the fruits in every generation, according to the shepherd's rod. But it is even more directly addressed to the first fruits, the 144,000 living saints. Now, I would like to read to you tract number 3. On page 86. It says, the 40 days, in Acts chapter 1, verse 3 and 9, from the resurrection to the ascension, are consequently typical of the period from 1844 to the fulfillment of the marking and slaying as recorded in Ezekiel 9 and Revelation 7, verse 3 and 8, Revelation 14, verse 1 to 5, respectively, and in Testimonies to Ministers, page 445, Testimonies, volume 3, page 266, also Early Writings, page 270 to 273. Now, the statement is very plain. The 40 days from Christ's resurrection to the ascension of Christ are consequently typical of the period from 1844 to the fulfillment of the marking and slaying as recorded in Ezekiel 9 and Revelation 7, verse 3 to 8, verse 14, 1 to 5, respectively. Now let us focus our attention, brothers and sisters, to the subject in gathering of the saints, by which the 40 days serve as the type Now, let's read the old symbolic code. Three symbolic code, 5 and 6, page 13. Three symbolic code, 5 and 6, page 13. This query is answered in tract number 3. The harvest. In the illustration on page 44, of which the barley sheaf of the first fruits is pictured in type and antitype. That is, the ceremonial sheaf of barley prefigured the resurrection of Christ. The first fruits, including those who arose with him. These resurrected ones constituted the spiritual sheep, which at the beginning of the judgment of 1844 was offered before the Father as a sheep offering of the living first fruits. Now let me ask all faithful shepherd's rod believer, when does the wave sheep is offered in the presence of God the Father? Only during the Passover week. Do not forget, brethren, that according to the shepherd's rod, It says in page 13, in track number 3, hence, through the sanctuary work on earth is seen the sanctuary work in heaven. Track number 3, page 13. Hence, through the sanctuary work on earth is seen the sanctuary work in heaven. Now, during the sanctuary work on earth, is there any occurrence that God's people been commanded by God to offer the worship offering on the Day of Atonement, or on the Feast of Tabernacles, or on the Feast of Trumpets? There is no such occurrence. And the only historical event, according to the divine arrangement, the worship is offered during the Passover week. No other feast ever recorded in the Bible that the worship is offered in the presence of God. Only during the Passover week. And according to Desire of Ages, page 77, it says, all the ceremonies of the feast typified the work of Christ. Then obviously, therefore, the statement in 3 Symbolic Code 5 and 6, page 13, cannot be Gregorian calendar. It must be Bible calendar. If this 1844 in 3 Symbolic Code 5 and 6, page 13, is Gregorian calendar, now Jesus Christ entered into the most holy place October 22, 1844. Of course, the next month must be November. Then the next month must be December. Of course, January is no longer 1844. It must be 1845 in Gregorian calendar. So, in 1844, Gregorian calendar, there are only 3 remaining months, October, November, December. Now, if we will be saying that 3 Symbolic Code number 5 and 6, page 13 is Gregorian calendar, then what specific month in 1844 that the worship is offered in the presence of God the Father in the most holy place? Is it October? Is it November or December? Because there are only 3 remaining months in 1844. And there was no offering of worship in the month of October, neither on November, neither on December. Inescapably, therefore, 1844 mentioned here must be Bible calendar. And as a matter of fact, October 22, 1844 in Bible calendar, that was October 11, 1843, and pattern number 5. Therefore, the next year to follow in Bible calendar is pattern number 6. The same pattern on the year of Christ's resurrection, when the worship is offered in the presence of God the Father on the 4th day of the feast, April 18. And do not say that it is just a mere happenstance. Brothers and sisters, no, it is purposive design. Now, we will show to you, brethren, the miraculous truth, how God perfectly arranged the plan of redemption. So let us go to the third clue, the 12 figurative months. So the statement in track number 3, page 85, it says, track number 3, page 85. Wonderful indeed is the way in which God has worked out the plan of salvation and revealed it step by step as necessary. When in 1844, the investigative judgment of the dead and the ingathering of the first fruits of the living began. You see, brothers and sisters, when does the ingathering of the first fruits of the living began? In 1844. But what 1844? No, that is Bible calendar. That is not Gregorian. Because the divine principle, the first fruits cannot be gathered not until the wave ship will be offered first in the presence of God the Father. And look at, brothers and sisters, the occurrence in 1844 Bible calendar. Would you think it is just a mere accident or happenstance? Let us go to the third clue, the 12 figurative months. Now, if you could add the same pattern calendar, but only 31 AD, April in the upper part. April 31 AD. No, the same calendar. Copy-paste April 1844, but replace 1844 with 31 AD. The same with May 1844. Okay. So, also, May. So that upper portion, that is the type. according to track number 3, 1934 edition, page 66. So that is the type. Let us go back. April 18, 31 AD, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. From April 18, 31 AD to May 27, 31 AD, that is 40 days, in which the 120 disciples were gathered. But in April 18, 1844, to May 27, 1844, that is the time by which the first fruits of living saints, which is the prototype, were completely gathered. In the book, their names had been inscribed into the book. The congregation of the living. But you think it is just a mere happenstance that in Gregorian calendar, April 18, 1844, that was April 27? Brethren, well, my duty is only to share the message. Whether you believe it or not, that is no longer my responsibility. Now to repeat again, the type, I would like to make a simple illustration. The type is contain three numbers. April 18, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And in April 18, there are 13 remaining days. And then May 27, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So it is called the mystical number 40. Jesus Christ entered to the most holy place. So I would like to, the antitype. From 1844, October 22, 1844. That is the time when Jesus Christ entered to the most holy place. Would you think it is just a mere happenstance that 18 plus 22 equals 40? No. That is the truth portrayed in track number 3, page 86. When does the wave-ship is offered? In Bible calendar, April 18, 1844. But in Gregorian, because this is Gregorian. In Gregorian, that was April 27, 1845. Would you think it is just a mere happenstance? 13 plus 27 equals 40? Ponder deeply, brothers and sisters. But what is our particular object in view? Marking and slaying. Now let us go back again to track number 3, page 86. It says, the 40 days in Acts chapter 1, verse 3 and 9, from the resurrection to the ascension are consequently typical of the period from 1844 to the fulfillment of the marking and slaying as recorded in Ezekiel chapter 9. And Revelation 7 verse 3 to 8. Revelation 14 verse 1 to 5. Respectively, and in Testimonies to Ministers, page 445. Testimonies, volume 3, page 266. Also, Early Writings, page 270 and 273. I know it is a little deep subject, but the more we study it, the more it will become clearer. And you can really appreciate the wondrous structure of the plan of redemption. Now, let us go back first to the subject, the 12 figurative months. So, let us go to our clue number 4. Slide 4. So, you can see the diagram, 6 literal months and 6 symbolical months. Remember, the divine pattern here is Friday. October 16, which is Friday, that is pattern number 2. December 16, which is Friday, that is pattern number 3. February 16, which is Friday, that is pattern number 4. And April 16, which is Friday, that is pattern number 6. June 16, which is Friday, that is pattern number 7. August 16, which is Friday, that is pattern number 1. In other words, there is only one pattern, by which October 16 is Friday, that is pattern number 2. There is no other pattern of Bible calendar, by which October 16 is Friday. That is only pattern number 2. The same with December 16, February 16, April 16, June 16, and August 16. But what is the focal point in the subject in the 5th trumpet? It is concerning the 5 figurative months. As stated in Revelation 9, verse 5 and 6. But concerning the 5 figurative months, what is the particular object in view? September 16. September 16. What does it mean by figurative? It is not literal. It is metaphorical. It is symbolical. So we need to establish clearly what is the symbolical September 16. If we will go back to the divine formula that each symbolical month consists 210 days, then it's easy to find out the symbolical September 16. By adding 210 days from August 16. Now, for example, let us find pattern number 1. August 16. For example, just an example. August 16, (26 AD), Bible calendar. You see, that is pattern number 1. Friday. Then let us add 210 days. So that is March 16. Also Friday. Of course, because 210 is divisible by 7. Once the number is divisible by 7, if it will commence on Friday, it must end on Friday because it is divisible by 7. Why is it that we begin in August 16? Because the next month to follow is September 16. Right? August 16, then September 16. But we are looking about the symbolical September 16, not literal. So the only way that you could establish the symbolical September 16 is add 210 days in August 16. The month before September 16. Then you will fall on March 16. Pattern number 1. Therefore, March 16, pattern number 1 is the symbolical September 16. What is the literal September 16? That is pattern number 5. But September 16 is Friday. But we are looking the symbolical September 16. Not literal because we are studying symbolical month or figurative month. Now, how many days? 5 figurative months. It's easy, right? Just add 200, multiply 210 times 5 equals 1,050 days. That is found on our second clue on the 5 figurative months. 210 times 5 equals 1,050 days. Right, brothers and sisters? And we need to connect our subject on the 12 months parabolic harvest period. Now, what is our symbolic number in the subject in gathering? 40 days. And what is the statement? Track number 3, page 86. It says, the 40 days in Acts chapter 1, verse 3 and 9, from the resurrection to the ascension, are consequently typical of the period from 1844. From 1844. And we know that that was October 2. Of course, from 31 AD to 1844, that is not 40 days. Neither 40 years. Neither 400 years. Neither 4,000 years. But God bestowed unto us this mystical number 40. April 18, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. October 22, when Jesus Christ entered to the most holy place, 18 plus 22 equals 40. And that is infallible proof because it will never happen again. Happen only once in a lifetime. That Gregorian calendar, October 22, in Bible is October 10. When it will happen again? Let us look at October 22. Gregorian calendar, 7681. Still does not exactly fits. That is October 12 in Bible calendar. That's why it will never happen again. So there is no other year predicted beforehand that Jesus Christ will enter to the most holy place except October 22. Because any other date will not make the mystical number 40. 18 needs 22 to become 40. When does the worship had been offered? On Gregorian calendar, April 27. There is no other date except on 1845, but 1844 in Bible calendar. Because there are only 3 numbers in the type, 18, 13, and 27. So April 27 plus 13 equals 40. But would you think, brothers and sisters, it is just a mere happenstance that in April 18, 2019, so let us go to Bible calendar. April 18, 2019. You see, in Gregorian calendar, that is October 22, 2017. It will never happen again, brothers and sisters, that the date of Christ's resurrection and the date when Jesus Christ entered to the most holy place joined together in one day. And that was April 18, 2019, Bible calendar. In Gregorian, that is October 22, 2017. 18 plus 22 equals 40. Now, what is the statement? Brothers and sisters, from the crucifixion, that is the fulfillment. Now, let us put April 16, 2019. So that is Friday. In Gregorian calendar, that was October 20, 2017. Therefore, brothers and sisters, from April 16, 2019, then we will count 1,050 days. Let us add 1,050 days. You will fall on March 16, 2021, Bible calendar. In Gregorian, that is September 4, 2020. That is the expiration of the 5 symbolical months. Because September 4, 2020, Gregorian calendar, in seasonal calendar, that was September 16. We will, although we will just send to you the divine formula given by the Shepherds Rod, counting the seasonal calendar. You remember that diagram? Seasonal calendar. May 20, it is used, Sister Ronelyn, who encoded it. Diagram. So, we'll just send to you that diagram. That is called seasonal calendar. That March 20, in seasonal calendar, that is April 1. According to answerer number 3. And if you will look at September 4, so let us focus to September 4. You see, September 4, the last one. Focus the last one, the very September 16. Look at September 16. Okay, that's September 4 Gregorian calendar. On seasonal calendar, that was September 16. Whether you believe it or not, brothers and sisters, that is the reality. Supposed to be on September 4, 2020, I would like to say, supposed to be. That was already the day of vengeance. But there is a divine declaration. God has deferred His vengeance to grace. Then we can easily understand, brothers and sisters, that we are already living in the added probationary time. Now, I would like to read track number 5, brother. I'm sorry. Track number 5. On page 87. It says, the only revelation of truth pertaining to and coming at an hour is the proclamation of the angel's announcement, fear God and give glory to Him, for the hour of His judgment is come. Revelation 14:7. Because it is an explanation of Revelation chapter 9, verse 15, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, for to slay the third part of men. Revelation 9 verse 15. And we'll explain that to the next episode. It says, page 87, the only revelation of truth pertaining to and coming at a day is the warning of the day of vengeance. Isaiah 63 verse 4. The great and dreadful day of the Lord, which is to be heralded by the promised Elijah the prophet. Malachi 4 verse 5. Testimonies to Ministers, page 475. The only revelation pertaining to and coming at a month is the latter rain in the first month. The light of the angel who is to lighten the earth with His glory. Revelation 18 verse 1. And then number 4, and finally the only revelation pertaining to and coming at a year, and preparing the 4 angels for to slay the third part of men, it says, the Lord, the year of my redeem. And this year at which His people are redeemed is, of course, the time of the sealing and of the deliverance of the 144,000. Those who are redeemed, who escaped the slaughter, decreed in Ezekiel chapter 9. The year of my redeem in Isaiah 63 verse 4 is the same with the acceptable year of the Lord in Isaiah 61 verse 1 and 2. Pointing to the same event. Now, for example, let's go to March 16 or March 16, 2021. Then let us add 390 days. You see, brothers and sisters, you will fall on April 16, 2023. So supposed to be, we are already in the day of vengeance. But God gave God gave one added year provisionary time. Here in 2TG number 46, page 22, with what unwearied love did Christ minister to Israel during the period of added provision. So his care and labor for you are not lessened but increased. Still he says, I the Lord do keep it. I will water it every moment, lest any hurt it. I will keep it night and day. If it bear fruit, well, and if not, then after that, the heart that does not respond to the divine agencies becomes hardened until it is no longer susceptible to the influence of the Holy Spirit. Then it is that the word is spoken. Cut it down, why cumbereth it the ground? This parable explains that Christianity is plant-like. It is like a fruit tree. Moreover, it explains that God is very patient with us in our Christianity, for in the parable only after the third fruitless year would the Lord consider cutting down the barren fig tree, and even then he was convinced to wait still another year. Thus we see that we are given plenty of time in which to make good, plenty of time to begin bearing fruit. There is nevertheless, as in the parable, no fruitless tree to be spared beyond the fourth parabolic year. 2TG 46:22. So when this added provisionary time, added year, will expire, it says, there will be no more fruitless tree to be spared beyond the fourth parabolic year. We will continue this subject on our next episode. Thank you very much for listening and viewing this program. May the good Lord bless you and have a beautiful, wonderful evening.